What's good? It is Sam here, and today I wanted to talk about the Iowa caucuses. If you follow politics, you probably are aware that they had their um, Liberty and Justice event where a bunch of people were talking, and it's just been popping up in my news feed a lot. So I wanted to do iteration number 2 on my research to see who actually ranks number 1 and the top 11 candidates. So what we did is put together that research, and I'm going to present it to you right now. So with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, it's good to freaking see you. With that, let's go. Okay, so as you can see here, it's just one thing after another in the news out in Iowa. So what did we do for our research? Well, what we did is we took each of the candidates' names on Google search. So this is Google Trends, and you can look up the search volume on Google as well as the search volume on YouTube. And we search for each one of the candidates' names, and then we stack rank them on 3 different time periods. First, the 12-month, second, the 3-month, and lastly, the 1-month. So we stack rank them 1 through 11 at the 12-month, 1 through 11 at the 3-month, and etc. for the 1-month. And then finally, we take an average where the most recent 30 days represents 50% of the average. The 12-month and the 3-month represent 25% of the average. And then overall, we did that for Google, and we did it for YouTube within each of those 3 time periods, right? So it's coming up, now we're at Google and YouTube, and then we take an average between those 2 rankings to come up with the overall, to really understand who are the top candidates. And why do we use Google search volume and YouTube search volume? Well, because we can get the data for that, but second, because these are the 2 largest sites in the planet based on popularity. So they're the biggest sites on the fucking planet. So we're looking at it just for Iowa. So this is just the search volume in the state, not outside the state. Okay, and this can be tracked through your IP address and whatnot. Okay, so what we have here is Iowa, as you can see over here. We have the candidates, a bunch of the candidates across the top, and we have the 12-month, and this is the web search. So then what we came in is we looked, and we looked at the 90-day, and then we looked at the 30-day. And as you can see, the 30 days is a little bit more sparse or a lot more volatility. But then what we did is did the same exact thing after we ranked it on the web, as I mentioned, but now we look at YouTube search volume. And we did the same thing where we started out at the macro view, and then we came into the 3-month, and then we came into the 30-day. And the 30-day looks pretty sparse, as you can see here, with only a couple people actually garnering interest in the past 30 days. And we put all that data together in a spreadsheet, and this is what we came up with. And I'm going to show you. Okay, so we have the top 5. Bernie Sanders is number 1. And then we have a 4-way tie for second place. 4-way tie for second place. As you can see here, Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard, Biden, and Warren. And it is kind of interesting to see 2 younger folks relative to everybody else that is up there. But Bernie Sanders is definitely number 1 just across the board. You can see this in the search volume, except for the past 30 days on YouTube. He has dropped to number 2, and Andrew Yang has moved up to number 1. So this will be interesting to see if this is a trend or what's going on. But overall, Bernie Sanders has been doing very well. And if we take a look at some of the trends in here, we'll start just at the top here. We'll take a look at Yang, Biden, Elizabeth Warren, and Gabbard, right? Oh, fuck. Okay, so let's go here and here. So this is for the 4-way tie. So this kind of gives us an indication of where this is going to look in another couple weeks or another month. If you want to see that video, make sure you press that subscribe button and that thumbs up button. That does help out the channel drastically. So let's take a look at Andrew Yang on Google. So we see that he's pretty static. He went down and then he lost ground on Google. So he's in the middle of the pack, towards the top half, middle of the pack essentially. Biden, you can see at the 365 he was second. At the 90-day, he was third, and at the 30-day, he is fifth. So, if you see that, if you think that the past is going to at least hold some type of value in terms of predicting the future, then Biden's probably going to drop out of the top 5 at some point. We'll see if he can, garner more awareness and support, but based on what we're seeing on Google, he looks like he's probably going to drop out of the top 5 relatively soon. And then down here, let's see. Down here, we have Elizabeth Warren. She's been in the top 3, so she's doing very well. Not a ton of movement, but she did move up a little bit. And Tulsi Gabbard has moved up quite a bit. So she's went from 6th to 3rd, where you can see it's almost the inverse of Joe Biden. As she's gained ground, Joe Biden's lost ground. So that's kind of interesting to see how that's played out. That's on Google. Now let's go over to the YouTube search volume, and we'll start at the top again. Andrew Yang was number 2 at the 365 and the 90, and then moved up to 1 over the past 30 days. So that's interesting. Bernie Sanders lost a spot in the 30-day. But I think that Andrew Yang and Bernie Sanders go back and forth on a bunch of these in the other rankings that I'm doing for the power ranking, where we look at the whole entire nation. So if you want to see those videos, go check out the channel on that. But Biden on YouTube has lost ground, just like he's lost ground on Google. He's also lost ground. He's still in the top 5 for these categories, but he has lost ground. Elizabeth Warren has been gaining ground pretty quickly. She moved up 3 spots here. Then Miss Gabbard is 5th, and then she jumps down to 3rd, and then 3rd. But remember, when you're in that top 5, there's, especially with this year's election, the diversity of the candidate pool is just tremendous. So, I would expect them to kind of all level out. You can see the laggards are just going to start dropping off one by one over the next couple weeks to months. But the top 5 might take a while to really distill out who are the top couple candidates. And who has the staying power as this progresses forward. So this will be super interesting to watch. Now, I just wanted to take a look at the comparison between let's take a look here, YouTube and Google from when we first did this ranking back in about a month and a half ago, right? And we can see that Yang has moved up 2 spots in Iowa. Kamala Harris has just gotten obliterated. She went from 3rd in Iowa in our ranking back in September to 7th. Amy has lost ground. Bernie stayed the same. Biden stayed the same. Cory Booker has lost ground. Elizabeth Warren has gained ground. Gabbard was not in the first round of this because she was not in the debate in September, so I did not include her. Same thing with Tom Steyer. He has jumped in and he is number 7, and he was not in that debate too. So to be displacing or being tied with Kamala Harris, I think that's says something a lot about Tom too and what he is doing. He's also has a lot of resources to be able to fund this. I'm curious to see if he's just too much like the rest of the folks that seem too much of a part of the establishment, like Biden, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders. Like, they just, in my POV, seem very much like part of the establishment, where I think that a lot of people would prefer to have something that's not part of the establishment. But the thing that helps Tom, in my opinion, is that he's coming from a business background, even though his appearance and whatnot might come across as a part of the establishment. When you hear, I would assume that his POV, because he comes from a business background, is going to be different than the people who are in the establishment. So that is interesting to see that he wasn't in it, and now he's ranked number 7. But it's also more interesting as Gabbard wasn't in it, and now she's ranked number 2. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section on the way down there. If you do leave a comment, at the end of the videos, I like to go over and answer some of the comments and respond to them at the end of these videos. So if you use the hashtag Stolt, I will be able to more easily find this. So let's come down here and let's look at this one from Michael Donovan. Michael, Tulsi is the real deal. I don't know what she actually says. I don't really follow what the candidates have to say, but I do know just from the peripheral amount that I do know about these candidates that she has some type of military connection, whether she was in the military and or still affiliated with the military or whatnot. And I think that that community as a whole is very, very tightly woven together. So I think she can definitely potentially work that in a way to be able to pull in the military and the veterans, because that's a decently large portion of the voting population. And I think that they're very cohesive and that they stick together. So it'll be very interesting to see how that moves forward. Let's come down here and it says, this is from Star Trek Theory. What's good? And he mentions, I'd bet 10 YouTube bucks that Bernie Sanders has Hillary's bot army working for him. So this is in reference to some bots or the real people on Twitter. So I'm not sure if if you have evidence on there, I don't know. It would be an interesting series to try to understand if they are using bots. If you want to see a video on that, maybe I can try to figure out a framework we can put together to understand if a candidate is using a bot based on some of the data that we look at through Social Blade and actually looking at their profile and their tweets and whatnot. So if you'd like to see something like that, let me know down below in the comment section. On your way down to the comment section, there's the description. If you jump over to TikTok and say what's good, or Instagram and say what's good. Lastly, if you like this video, if you found any value in this video, share this video. I'm trying to get the message out that it's 2019. There's probably a more intelligent way of looking at who the American public is actually interested in, what the American public is actually interested in, than some polls that are woven with a tremendous amount of biases across the board, and the volume of data that is captured just is very small on a relative scale. Like, look at Google, the #1 site on the planet in the search history in a specific state or country, versus several hundred or maybe several thousand people that these companies are putting out as representative of what the American public thinks. I mean, it's just, that's what the statistics say, that it's supposed to be pretty representative. I think that looking for a more relevant way of capturing the essence of what Americans are actually interested in by seeing what they search for, not asking them questions, is a much more representative way. So if you agree with that, or you found any value in this video, share this video with somebody else who you think that they can get value out of it as well, to get this message out there that there's a better way of doing things. It's 2019. So whether you agree with the better way of doing it or not, there's a lot of change that's coming and that's going to be taking place over the next decade. So thank you so much for watching. Peace.